Are you a business owner or employee who needs to network but is terrified of walking into a room full of people you don't know? Are you afraid of being left out of conversations or being awkward in the conversations you do have? Your tour guide, Faithann, is here to walk alongside you through the networking terrain, offering tips and tricks to network with ease. She'll also bring insightful interviews with successful business owners who have used networking to expand their businesses. Building relationships is the heart of networking, and generosity is the cruise ship that will navigate you toward those important relationships for your business or career. Grab your sunscreen and suitcase. Faithann is ready. Are you?
Hello there, and welcome to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast. I'm your host, Faithann. I'm glad you found the show. Networking is providing opportunities for others that they would not have except for you, so that you have standing to ask for opportunities from those same people when you need them. How do we create opportunities for others, and how do we ask for those same opportunities? Well, that's what this podcast is all about. It's what I'm here for. Let's dive into episode 26. Listeners, I want to thank you for tuning into the Networkers Tour Guide podcast, and I have a special guest, Deborah Torrey with the Armstrong Company. Deborah, thank you for saying yes to being a guest on the Networkers Tour Guide podcast.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
So I met Deborah through networking, of course, and she is such a fantastic person to know, and she works so hard on behalf of Armstrong. And the reason why I asked her, I thought it would be a great conversation to have, is because she is an employee who networks on behalf of her company. And she does such a great job representing Armstrong Company that I thought it would be a great conversation to talk about networking from an employee's perspective, especially since just the previous episode is all about networking from the employer's perspective. So, Deborah, first just tell us a little bit about what you do for the Armstrong Company.
So my primary role with the Armstrong Company is business development for both their, if you will, B2C clients as well as B2B clients. And so business to business or business to consumer. So that's my primary area of focus, is generating new business for our company. Now, the Armstrong Company is a full service relocation company. So we provide moving and storage services for both businesses and individuals, whether it's local, long distance, or even international. So we do all kinds of moving and storage and have all kinds of resources for any type of relocation need. And that's really what I do, is help individuals or businesses with moving services.
And, you know, although Armstrong is an international company, when you all have networked and you have other employees, not just yourself, but other employees networking, it does have a very much small town, we care about you feel. It doesn't have that conglomerate feel. It has the local, and that's one of the reasons why networking is so important for even big, huge companies like the Armstrong. And I have learned a lot about how common moving scams are in that industry, how easily a person can be ripped off by a charlatan moving company.
Right.
And I've learned all that from you guys, you and Dan, being around in our BNI chapters. BNI stands for Business Networking International. I appreciate the small town feel that you still give us, even though you're very capable. So we get the best of both worlds. We get the customer service of a local moving company, but then you have all that infrastructure behind you. You can help many, many different kinds of people, so we don't have to worry about the kind of referrals we're sending because Armstrong can handle it.
Yeah, we could do small to large scale for sure. And that is one of the things that was important to our organization. We have, as a sales representative, I mean, essentially business development is a function of sales. And as a sales representative, we have to create a percentage of self-generated activity. That's something that the company is like, they know from relationships, from networking, that you're going to generate some activity, but they've put some intentionality behind it. And that was one of the things that I liked. The story is kind of funny how I got into networking with Business Networking International, or BNI. I had just joined the Oklahoma City agency, if you will. And I was with Armstrong, but I was with them in Ohio. And as a little background, just so people understand, Armstrong, while we are a moving company here in Oklahoma City and each office is individual, we have 35 locations around the US that are Armstrong owned. And so each one is kind of in that market, if you will. And so in that market, we are the Armstrong Company local, but we also have that national presence. And so anyway, when I transferred from Ohio to Oklahoma City, I was new to the area. I didn't have any friends. My husband is from the area, and so that was what brought us here, was moving closer to family in 2020. And so I was talking to Danny, who's in your chapter, and he needed a substitute to come to a meeting. And you guys were still on Zoom at the time. And so he's like, "Will you sub for me?" And I was like, "Sure." And I met you guys. And at the time, there was different leadership in the chapter and things like that. But a lot of the same people that are there today were there then. And once I met you guys, I think there was like 20 or so people on the phone, on the Zoom at that time. I just was like, I want my own people, you know?
Oh,
These are Danny's people, but I want my own people. And so that was how I kind of found local networking anyway. So
so
it was,
you came to our meeting, and then as a result, you said, "I want my own people."
I
That is
want my
so
own.
so cool. So I'm real curious as an employee. Then did you go to your employer and ask permission? What was that conversation like?
I did, because Dan was a member already of the networking organization, and I knew there was a financial expenditure involved with that. And I went to the company and asked for permission, and they knew he was working his chapter well and was successful. And so they kind of said, "Absolutely, we will support you. We understand this networking, and we believe in the intentionality of BNI and how it's a single seat placement and things like that. So you really get to know the people." And they knew I was new to the market. And so they thought this was a great investment. And I will say it's probably the best networking investment that you can have, is getting involved in a group and really participating. There are tons of things in networking. There's lots of options for networking out there, but I think the one thing about being in a specific chapter that is single seat oriented and really puts some metrics behind getting to know each other and actually being intentional with your referrals, because anybody can pass on a lead, but a
Right.
referral is really something where there's some thought behind it, or oftentimes it's been sold by whoever is giving you the referral, and it's just a matter of if the numbers work or what have you. And sometimes there's some, there's not financial referrals that are out there where you're referring someone to another business or another person, where there's not necessarily dollar signs assigned to that particular transaction, but it's a potential lifelong partnership transaction that may happen. And so that's sometimes referring, people get a little caught up on it's all about me. And that's the one thing that I really liked about BNI, was that it was really all about us, or about
Yeah.
we, or there's gain mentality behind that. So that was something that really fit with Armstrong's DNA. And
Mm-hmm.
so, the Armstrong cultures and values meshed up really well with that. And that was one of the things that, as I was looking, they said you can absolutely network, and they wanted us to be involved in multiple things. So while I'm involved in BNI, I joined a chapter of my own. I'm also involved in Oklahoma Human Resources, and then I'm involved in several relocation groups that are regional. There isn't one in Oklahoma City that's specific to relocation, but there's one in North Texas, and then there's one in Kansas City. And so I'm involved in those. And then there's a worldwide one that is kind of a overseen one. So we do a lot of networking in our industry specific, and I'm sure everybody has kind of industry specific things, but those are kind of a little bit more overarching. and not necessarily specific to individual move referrals or things like that. So it's more of like keeping up on your education in your own industry is what those are utilized for more often. Anyway.
Right. And tell the listener, you mentioned it a couple of times with the seat. What did you call it? I mean, I have a word for it, but you used an interesting phrase where it's the seat specific in a BNI
Oh,
chapter. Can you tell the listeners what you mean by that?
that we have exclusivity to the seat. So it's this is a networking organization that is each chapter has exclusivity to each seat. So if you are the moving and storage person in the group, there are no other moving and storage companies. So if you're the auto and home insurer, if you're the health insurance provider, if you're the financial advisor, there are no other ones in your chapter. Now, that is also awesome because you can also have associations with people, because I always felt like there's an abundance mentality that works. Just because I'm the only mover in my chapter doesn't mean I can't partner with another mover.
Right.
And we have a local mover. I mean, I'm a national mover, but we have a local mover in another chapter, and we had a storage container guy in another chapter. And so those are great referral partners for me, because not everybody can afford Armstrong's structure and our scale. And our hourly rates are similar, but we have a longer duration. We need a 4-hour minimum, and not every company operates on that. And so it's great for me to have local resources. If somebody can't utilize my services, I would rather them use somebody that I know and trust than
Right.
just go to the pages or the internet,
Right.
for that.
100%. And in window cleaning, I was always after people that do the services that I don't. I was always wanting people to have those kinds of people, so that when someone says, "Can you come and clean my 1970s home with 12 storm windows?" and I say, "We don't do storm windows. However, here is the
Yeah,
person that I recommend," then just to say, "Well, I'm sorry, but we can't help you," and nothing else. So that's really
yeah.
good that you're utilizing other people in other chapters to fill that gap, so that you're still serving your clients and serving them well. Yeah.
Well, and I think that servant, I mean, part of that, I like helping people. That is one of my favorite pieces, and why I've stayed in the industry as long as I have is because they say the three things that are the hardest for people in their entire life is death, divorce, and moving. And so while I don't want to have to, I mean, I don't ever want to have to deal with people during death, or and divorce is horrible, but I know I can help people with the moving and help them with my experience, having been in the industry for as long as I have. It's close to 36 years in the industry. And then I've moved 11 times personally. So both interstate and local. So I have an experience that, amazingly enough, in moving and storage, not everybody has moved before, which I find just amazing, that you would go into an industry where you've never experienced it. Now,
Right.
I guess I was worked in the automotive repair industry. I don't necessarily know how to fix cars. I mean, I guess there are correlations where you don't always have to be in the business to know the business, but I just think that being on the client service side or in the sales side, if you haven't been where your customer is at, how do you know what great questions to ask or what their needs are and things like
Right.
that? So that's been one of the key pieces to my experience. I think makes me a great fit for
What you're
counseling.
doing. Yeah. Well, I want to make sure that I also highlight something that you put into practice once you started networking on behalf of Armstrong in your own chapter. You have a very smart way of showing your employer the results that you're getting. And you want to tell the listeners a little bit about how you do that?
Yeah, I mean, the company made an investment in me to participate. So one thing I do is I am committed. I participate to the fullest. BNI has some criteria with accountability features where you have to be attendance and the number of meetings and referrals and things like that they do track. So I am always focused on making sure that I'm meeting those deliverables, both for my own company as well as for BNI. But I share that statistical data from BNI. I get the BNI captures all of that information and they say, hey, this is the volume of thank you for closed business that you have received. And this is the number of referrals that you received. And so I have that on a daily basis on the application from BNI, and we get these reports that come through where they're just saying, hey, congrats, you're at 520% of your investment. And so every time I would get one of those reports from BNI, I would forward it to my executive VP and my general manager, if you will. And so to kind of show them, here's what we're accomplishing with this investment that you've made, because we spend a lot of money as a corporation trying to get referrals through websites and through United, or we do pay United for referrals. If somebody goes to their website and says, hey, I need to move in Oklahoma City, then it funnels to us, but that we have to compensate them for that. And we've found that BNI's referral to close ratio, as well as just the volume of referrals that I get and the quality of the referrals, is very high coming from BNI. So those are kind of things where their dollars are a little higher. And moving and storage is not an easy thing for people to refer, because it is a spend that people have. And while, yes, couldn't we do a 2 min 4-hour minimum that's relatively inexpensive, but the majority and probably our primary person is a more expensive relocation. And so it is a big number. So I don't necessarily have to do as many referrals as a Mary Kay representative might need to selling lipstick, and makeup or whatever. But if I make a few referrals that convert to moves, I've covered my cost plus very easily. And so I was 5,200% of investment in my first year.
Wow.
And so then it's tapered off, but my numbers have continued to climb. And I've been in BNI now 4 years and have received close to $200,000 in business. And so when you have that, I just think that there's no way that you can't. It's a win. It's a
Yeah,
win for
it's
the.
a no-brainer. Can you
Sorry.
can you say that about your company again, because it cut out? So
Oh,
tell us again how much that number that you mentioned.
okay. So in my 4 years with BNI, I have received over $200,000 in what we call thank you for closed business within the business networking international environment. But basically, that's the revenue my company has received from the referrals BNI members have passed to me personally.
Hi, listeners. Are you someone who struggles to make a great first impression when you meet others? Faithann has put together her guide to help you make a great first impression no matter where you are. This quick guide gives you simple tips to leave a powerful first impression, the first step to relationship building. Go grab this free resource today by clicking on the impressions link in the show notes.
So I did find out, we had a big sales meeting, that there are 10 of us in Armstrong that are in BNI chapters across the country. And none of us knew, other than Danny and I,
Uh-huh.
us knew we were in BNI until we were on a big group sales meeting, and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm in BNI, and I'm in BNI," because it came up as we were trying to figure out how to share with our other agency family how we were being successful, because all of us that were in BNI had our self generation percentage was over 30%.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so was that higher than the other employees who were not in
Yeah,
BNI?
I mean, yeah, it was, and the goal for the company, goal for us as individuals is 25%. That's what they want you to have, 25% self-gen. And then with other ways you can generate business, but that's self-gen, which is basically referrals or
Mhm.
networking. is that. So that was kind of the focus of our particular conversation, was about networking organizations and things like that. And we know there's more out there than BNI. And I mean, I did chamber and I've done some of the other stuff, but those are so, I just found they were not intentional and they were not focused.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing that I really like about why I chose Business Networking International. One was the core values that surround BNI aligned really well with the core values of Armstrong. And then I liked how intentional it was, where our goals, it was positive and everybody was, trying to help each other grow their business.
Exactly. Okay, well, I have a few, those two last questions that I ask everybody, but before I do that, I want to ask you one more question. So it can be really scary for employees to network on behalf of their employers. And the tip that you shared about how you send your employer the results of your efforts is a great one. So if you are an employee and you're part of a networking organization that doesn't track, then take it upon yourself to track your
Absolutely.
relationships and track not only the revenue generated, but also track the doors that have opened. So if you, in your networking organization, you were able to go to some other person and say, would you be willing to let me use your conference room for a lunch and learn? Then that needs to be documented, because you wouldn't have
Right.
had the confidence to go to that person and ask if it hadn't been for networking. So any kind of open doors that are opening because of your networking efforts, your efforts, then document them, because those kinds of things tend to get lost in the shuffle. And then
Right.
of course, document your efforts, your dollars. But what other advice would you have for an employee who's been asked to network and isn't quite
Well, the
sure
main
what to
thing is,
do?
yeah, I think the main thing is believe in your product. I mean, I think you have to really understand what you're trying to market and know. And I think I just like people. Don't go to a networking event if you're not planning to meet people. The whole point is getting to know folks. And one of the things that I will say about BNI, one last little plug for BNI, is that it's more than just your local chapter. So I did, when I was initially got started with the organization, and this is something that I will share with anybody who joins a networking thing. If there is other items, let's say they have podcasts, or they have training sessions, or they have speed networking events that are national and on Zoom, attend. If you can attend as much as you can. One, it'll improve your ability to participate in things, and you'll learn ways of sharing who you are. And you never know where a referral is going to come from. And I was on a speed networking event. I was maybe a month into BNI at the time. And it was kind of one of the first year new member essential like calls, but there was a bunch of people on there, and it was a lot of fun. And I met this really nice lady from Minnesota. And so then we scheduled an appointment afterwards, to kind of get to know each other a little better and see how we can help each other. And she connected me with her realtor in Minnesota who had a customer that needed to move from Minnesota to Louisiana. Now, if I wouldn't have gone on the call, I never would have made the connection. I've worked with her realtor before, it was amazing. And then they ended up adding a moving and storage person up there to their chapter based on that connection.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
so, those are the kind of things that you just don't know what you don't know. And so go in with an open mind and with a giver's heart, and just enjoy getting to know people. Because I mean, I found it's very special. I mean, I Sooner Networking has a really, I have a very close, feeling to them. They were my very first BNI experience, but I've been to Bold, and I've been to Gold Star, and I've been to other types of networking. And you just have to find the one that fits you.
Right.
And none of the others fit me until I met, the folks at Sooner Networking and wanted my own group.
Mm.
And so then I found, Danny connected me with Rob Talbot, and the rest is history. I found my chapter and my people, my tribe, if you will. And then I loved it. And so I said the one thing I would say is be prepared. Don't forget your cards, or have a dot card or one of those things, but be prepared to share your data. Think about what you want to accomplish when you go into a networking event. I mean, sometimes it can just be, if it's a social hour, it can just be making connections.
Right.
And then you the hard work afterwards, which is follow up.
Right.
And that way you follow up and get to know that person on a later date. But sometimes you're going to have hey, I want to promote something, or I'm wanting to, hey, we've got this big sale. Sometimes it might be a PSA for a season that's coming. If you're in restoration and storm season is coming, you want to get that out there. So it can be all different kinds. You can have different things that you're trying to accomplish at a networking event, but know where you're going. Do a little research ahead of time so you know who's going to be in the room, and
Mhm.
then tailor your, kind of what your want is to the folks there. I mean, so there is some preparation to networking. It's not just winging it,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
And
So,
the irony is the more prepared you are, the more freedom you have to pay attention to other things like expression, pay attention to people when your brain's not having to think to compose. When you
yeah,
already know what that elevator pitch is going to be, when you've practiced it, then you can be more expressive and you can be more in tune with the reactions that the people are having. The more prepared you are, and the more unsure, or the less unsure you look, the more confident you look, that
yeah.
that attracts people to you, that confidence.
Little quick ad is invest in a $20 name tag.
Hmm.
It's a hard name tag. It can have your company's logo on it, your name on it, spelled correctly in legible print that people can read. When you have to fill out a name tag, oftentimes it's not always legible. It peels off or crinkles. Whereas if you have a professional looking name tag for your business when you're networking, regardless of whether it's organization like BNI specific, but that is the one thing that I pulled out of BNI that I was like, oh, I'm wearing logo gear. I should be wearing a name tag also. And I like the ones with the magnets, and they're $20. So
Right.
it's an investment in your company. My company was like, oh, that's a great idea. And so they've now adopted the, having name tags. So we have Armstrong name tags and stuff like that. And that way you can wear whatever you want to wear, but you can still be branded when you are going into places.
Good. That's a great tip. All right. As we leave this conversation, this really great conversation, I always ask people two questions. So the first question is, what do you like to see when you network?
I like to see a mix of people in the room. I like to see energy where people are standing and talking in whether it's groups or big groups. But I'd like to see people engaging with each other. That's probably my favorite part. And having somebody that's a greeter or a floater that kind of goes around and instigates topics and things like that, or what have you. I just like to see that people talking and laughing and that kind of thing.
That's almost exactly what another guest just told me. Same thing.
Oh,
I love the energy in the room. That's what he loved. All right. What do you not like to see when you network?
the thing that disappoints me the most when I go into a networking style event is seeing someone sitting by themselves on their phone or whatever. I feel like if you've gone into the room, you should be there to network, and you shouldn't be sitting there staring at your phone in the corner. If you wanted to wait until the meeting was going for that, stay in your car and sit on your phone, because people don't know if you're in the middle of something or you have a problem going on, so that they're hesitant to interrupt you because
Right.
they're like, oh, maybe they're in the middle of something because they're sitting there on their phone, texting. So that's kind of the thing that I'm like, I'm always very conscientious when I go into a room. If I'm there as a participant of a networking organization, whether I'm substituting or visiting for the first time or at a chamber event, I'm engaged in that room at the time to meet people. And so you don't meet people if you're sitting by yourself at a table with you're looking at your phone.
Right.
uh, I stand up and I try to greet everyone I can see. If I make eye contact to someone, I'll go and say hi and introduce myself and things like that. So sitting alone is kind of thing. I'm like, if that's what you want to do, wait until the meeting starts and just sit in your car and then go in, because
Right.
you make a better impression having gone in and just having a seat than you would sitting by yourself ahead of
Right.
time.
Yeah. That's no good. So unapproachable when that happens. So I
Yeah.
was at a lunch yesterday, a networking lunch, and somebody, a dear friend who I've met at networking events, all of a sudden behind me, I feel this hug. Like somebody just walked up to me and just grabbed me and hugged me from behind, but I didn't. And so I turn around and I look and I'm like, oh, Paula, it was so much fun. Like she didn't, it was just a fun way to tell
Yeah.
me I'm here, Faithann. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, but if I would have been on my phone, just all involved, but I wasn't, and so here
Yeah.
all of a sudden this hug, and I turn around and she gets it. There's so many people that get it. They get
Yeah.
why they're there, and
Yeah.
we're not networking 20 hours straight, so you have other time in your day to do your other things, but while you're in the
Yeah.
meeting,
Yeah.
be in the meeting. Tell the room that you're there to give and to learn, to grow together instead of
Yeah.
doom scroll on your phone.
Yeah. If you're there representing your company, if your
Oh,
company is
yes. Mhm.
investment, I mean, so I treat it like my company has made an investment, whatever the dollar amount is, they've made an investment for me to go to this event, whether it's a home show, it's a networking event, it's a seminar I've been sent to, for educational purposes. If they're paying me to go there to learn something, which is going to improve me, it's for my benefit. Now, will it help them? Sure. In the long run, if happy employees and people that are trying to improve themselves will ultimately represent the company well. And if you represent the company well, you will, depending on whatever your job is, if you're sales or you're marketing or whatever it is, you're going to represent the company in a better fashion if you're more prepared. But anytime they send me on something, I feel like this is a chance for me to shine on their behalf.
Well, and boy, an employer, to have employees that have that mindset, man, that just got it. That's wonderful, and I know that your employer is very grateful to have you and the mindset that you have, and you serve Armstrong really well, and you work so hard, even in your role as a chapter success coach that BNI has. I mean, you really work really hard on behalf of Armstrong and on behalf of BNI, and I'm honored that you said yes to come and tell the listeners about it. So,
Oh, I
yeah.
love this. I love that you've grown. I mean, even just in the couple years that we've known each other, this was a branch out growth for you to go to this. And I absolutely think it's amazing.
Oh.
Um, and I kind of feel I don't feel responsible or anything like that. But I mean, I feel like if I support you in any endeavor, I want to try. And so, that's kind of one of the things that I think about. I'm like, I can count on you if I needed some help. And that's kind of the whole thing about it. As you network, yes, they're acquaintances in some cases. Sometimes they'll become business partners. Sometimes they'll be friends, and then there's going to be family. And I kind of think of our little BNI family that's gotten to know each other at all kinds of events as family.
Well,
So
and
I,
I think of you as a cheerleader because I remember when I was developing my referrals in 60 seconds manual, I was so excited to show it to a few people because I wasn't quite ready.
yeah,
And I remember having a one-to-one with you and pulling it out of my bag and saying, "Look what I did," and I knew you would be so proud of me. And that comes from the hard work of building a relationship. So, where can people find you?
they can find me locally. I'm here in Oklahoma City. I service the whole kind of metro area or nationally if anybody needs me. We have Facebook. If they go to www.goarmstrong.com, they will be able to get to me, or they can call me or email me. My name has changed. It's D Walker. So WALKER at goarmstrong.com, and then my mobile. And if you want to share my card or what have you, you can.
Yeah.
I'm also on LinkedIn. I have updated my LinkedIn and my Facebook, so they can find Deborah L. Walker out there with the Armstrong Company.
Yeah, we need to connect on LinkedIn because I've been using LinkedIn a lot lately, and I don't think that
Yeah,
we're connected. So we need to do that.
I will go here and do that. I have I was messing around in it the other day, just making sure. I was like, I need to make sure all my email finally got changed. It's been a bit of a process. I've been in the industry a long time as Tori,
Mm-hmm.
and so to finally, Mark and I have been together for quite a while, but we finally made it official in 2024, and so I have changed my name over, and so that's been a process for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on
Sure.
the podcast. And listeners, go and network. And if you are an employee networking on behalf of your company, keep in mind that your employer has invested in you to represent, and always be thinking about, how can I best represent, like Deborah does, your company, and make sure that you tick those accomplishments. You let your employer know what you're doing and the relationships that you are building. Thanks again, Deborah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Faith Ann.
You've been listening to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast with Faithann and Debra. Share this episode with a friend, and be sure to come back next week for more networking tips and tricks from the Networkers Tour Guide.